I paid 3 extended trips to Scotland in 2019, sometimes travelling light with just one rucksack and one camera. That, of course, was the Olympus OM-D E-M10mkii, which in my opinion is one of their best cameras. The lens was either the 12-100 Pro or 12-200, but never the two together. I took or used nothing else except my rail card for discounted first-class travel. Unfortunately, my bus pass was not valid in Scotland, but most additional travel was by boat. On 2 occasions, I was organising photo holidays, for which I had booked a coach. If travelling up north from down south by train, you will inevitably pass through Edinburgh or Glasgow. After arriving at Central Station, I had a few hours to pass before continuing my journey from Queen Street, so I visited both of Glasgow's cathedrals. St. Andrews is the Roman Catholic cathedral. It is quite recent, the foundation stone laid in 1814. Architecturally, it takes its inspiration from St. Mungo's, the Presbyterian cathedral, previously used for Catholic worship until the 1500s. That building stands on higher ground and is much older, built between the 12th and 15th centuries. It is therefore the oldest building in Glasgow and the oldest cathedral on mainland Scotland. Photographically, I found it more interesting, but it attracts many visitors and some necessary works were in progress. Glencoe is a magnet for visitors. The rocks of Glencoe stretch back 500 million years, which we gaze at in awe, but recent history casts a shadow over the glen, namely the infamous massacre of 1692. The perceptive photographer can respond to this event with images that convey a greater sense of tragedy. Although the massacre took place in February, finding a day that in mood, courtesy of weather, that can evoke an appropriate feeling is the hidden art. In seeking that mood, an electronic viewfinder on my EM1, aided by spot metering, came closer to giving a visual preview to my own interpretation of events. Glencoe merges into the valley that cradles Loch Leven, a sea loch stretching several miles inland to Loch Leven, previously a busy industrial town dealing in aluminium. The loch is a favourite location that I have photographed over many years, but this selection is just from 2019. Tragic events also unfold at Glen Finnan. In 1745, Prince Charles Edward Stewart, better known as Bonnie Prince Charlie, started his unsuccessful campaign, the Jacobite Rising, to restore the Stuarts to the British throne. Completed in 1815, this monument, an international icon in its own right, commemorates that event. A column dramatically situated at the head of Loch Leven. The view has a southerly aspect, usually into the light. Again, the electronic finder is invaluable for judging the high dynamic range for images of drama, again reflecting historic events. The railway arrived in the 1890s with the building of the now equally famous icon, the Glen Finnan Viaduct, well known universally through the Harry Potter films and the Hogwarts Express. During summer months, it is possible to book a seat on the Jacobite that operates from Fort William to Mallig, hauled of course by a steam locomotive. The area around Fort William is known as Loch Leven, which extends westwards to the coast. The origin of the name is not clear. It could mean swampy place, or refer to the confluence of the Lochie and Ness as they flow into Loch Leven. When running photographic holidays, one of my favourite tours is to cross Loch Leven to Strontium, then follow Loch Sunart to the other side of Moydart, and finally Castle Churham, which dates from around the 13th century and guards the entrance to Loch Shiel. This is a remote and wild landscape, and any inclement weather is unforgiving. You can't hide, but we were lucky. These open landscapes demand foreground interest, and Micro Four Thirds technology, if correctly used, ensures that everything is sharp where it should be. On the way back by Loch Aelot, the group were treated to not one rainbow, but two. Plenty of discussion at dinner that evening. Castle Stoker is one of the most romantically located castles in Scotland. Now, a good viewpoint is from the road to Port Appin, where a footpath has been re-established, restoring excellent views at low tide, where watery channels sweep their way towards the castle. A change from the cafe viewpoint much higher up on the hill. I am now in Argyll and Bute, and it is to the Isle of Bute I am heading, but not before I have paid homage to Iona and St. Columba. Passage is from Oban, a journey that is not without its own touch of romance, then across Mull by bus, where another ferry makes the short final journey across the Sound to the Abbey. I discovered that I had travelled across Mull on the last day of the winter timetable, which unfortunately restricted my visit to just a few hours. However, this turned out to be an advantage because I was successful in obtaining interior shots of Iona Abbey without people, so I wasted no time in getting down to business. I bet it gets busy here in summer. The church dates from 1200 and has been much altered. It became derelict after the Reformation, but restoration to its present state was not finished until the 20th century. The impressive font was installed in 1913 and is made partly from marble quarried on the island. On this occasion, I was using the new 12-200 lens, but unlike the 12-100 Pro lens, it did not have its own dedicated image stabilizer. This didn't matter, as standing foursquare, leaning on a few things and holding my breath, nobody was looking, but I think it has worked. Go to Bute by train and boat, and you will see one of the most striking railway stations on the network. Weems Bay, designed to impress, it is an inspiring send-off for an onward photo trip to Bute that proved to be the case. I stayed at Rothsea, the island's capital. The seafront puts on a good show, and behind the main facade is its fortress, one of the earliest surviving castles in Scotland. But I felt that the town's glory had faded a bit. But then my visit was in March, and having the place to myself, this might be expected. But I got a good deal on accommodation. After some research, I did a walk around the southern tip of Bute, the coastal scenery living up to expectations with dramatic vistas across the Sound of Bute to the mountains on Arran. My curiosity after studying the route on an Ordnance Survey map was aroused by the ruins of St. Blaine's Church. Its roots go back to the AD 500s when it was part of a monastery, abandoned during the Viking raids around 790, then a parish church built in the 1100s, in use until the Reformation of 1560. Bute's main glory, for which special trips by train, boat and bus from Glasgow are the norm, is Mount Stewart, which I would unhesitatingly recommend to any visitor coming for the day or longer. The architecture is Gothic Revival, built like a cathedral, and it is impressive. The inside does not disappoint, but it is not to everyone's taste. Subtlety some distance away, and very much in your face. It replaces the first house, destroyed by fire in 1877. I loved it, finding plenty of angles for my EM1 Mark II, plus the 12-200 lens. Photography has only recently been permitted inside, for which we have to thank the smartphone. Mount Stewart found it difficult to prevent tourists from taking photographs. Nevertheless, no tripods, no monopods, no flash, and you have to join a party. The trick is to keep to the back of the group and take your shots when everyone else moves on. Don't miss the extensive grounds. But I leave you with shots taken inside Mount Stewart, all of course handheld, for which Olympus and Micro Four Thirds are famous. I don't think that tripod manufacturers will be happy with me, but then, sorry, I am not a real photographer. I don't do things by the book.